the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour with your hosts, Joe Bond and AJ Appleton.
Touchdown! All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me this week, at this point, it's not a surprise, Mike LaPlans filling in for AJ again. Hopefully, AJ can join us later, and he's having some difficulties tonight, unfortunately. But hopefully, he will be able.
I'm upset he's not here, but I'm more upset the music was cut off. I was jamming.
You like the Tecmo Bowl, huh?
Oh, you betcha.
Love it. All right, guys. So we are going to get you ready for week 10 of the fantasy football season here. And to do that, we're going to be talking about some trade tips and targets. We're going to go through the rankings and then quickly recap all the whatever.
We'll recap all the crappy injuries.
Exactly. But before we get into that, guys, just want to remind you, join us over on Fantasy Six-Pack. Become a member. It is worth it. You get access to the award-winning rankings. We've got, I believe, 3 of us in the top 30 on Fantasy Pros right now. I'm 17. I was 16. I dropped 1. Dennis is inside the top 30. Nick's inside the top 20, he's like 21. So I mean, guys, there's like 200 rankers. So like these are top-notch rankers right now over on Fantasy Six-Pack. We've got all the DFS content and tools and things like that. We've got best of all, the Discord access. You get direct access to us. Ask us whatever questions you have. Me, Mike, Dave, Eddie, AJ, Preston, Nick. There's a whole bunch of guys over there on Discord waiting to answer your questions. We talk about a whole bunch. We ask our own questions over there. Like, we just bring scenarios. We'll throw out some stats and be like, what do you guys think about this? Here's some interesting stuff that, our own research that we found. So like we're just throwing out, dropping knowledge on you guys on Discord that we don't share anywhere else. So Discord's where it's at. But you also get access to everything else. So go over there to fantasysixpack.net/plans. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, wherever, hit that subscribe button, give that little thumbs up, leave a comment, give us a 5-star rating, whatever it is, wherever you watch or listen. We appreciate it. And we're glad you're here.
Yes, we do.
It's this week. So
hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, that said, man, let's jump into things here. I guess before we do it, I'm thirsty because AJ's late, so I'm going to do beer. Beer. So I've got a beer by Oliver Brewing Company. It's a collaboration with Liquidity Aleworks. Never heard of them, honestly, but I've had this one. I've got, the 4-pack in the fridge. I've already had one last week, I think. 8%. It's a double dry hop, double IPA with Citra, Incognito, Citra, HBC 630. Never heard of that. And Bar Bruges. Never heard of that one either. Anyway, it was pretty good. The can, so it's called Bigger Picture. It's like everybody getting together, shaking hands, getting along. I like it. I like the theme of the year. I really like it. I believe, and I forgot to check it on Untapped before I got on air, but I'll take a sip while I'm looking it up.
I mean, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, although Untapped's being super slow right now. I blame my internet. Bigger picture. What did I get this? I did not check it in last week like a douchebag. Anyway.
Is that who I think it was? Yep, I think Deontay. Is that Deontay Foreman, number 33 for the Panthers?
That's a really good question. I don't memorize.
It is Foreman.
Is it Foreman? So Foreman scored a touchdown. Pretty long run too. It looks like.
Yes, it was.
That's a 20. No, that's like a. Well, I mean, it's like a 12-yard run.
15-yard run about, but still, Tutty. He salvages the day.
Yep. Well, dude, it was a pretty. We were talking about this before the game, before we jumped on air. He's dominating the backfield touches right now. He's 20 to 4 to 5. He's got 83 yards and a touchdown. So he's having a really good day. So
And the
yeah,
game script is favoring him.
Absolutely. I'm actually shocked. I mean, Hubbard was kind of a surprise active, to be honest, especially on a Thursday night game coming off the injury. But when Hubbard was active, I kind of thought we might see a little bit more.
Yep, I remember talking about that in the Discord channel before the show, a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, we were going back and forth. I was like, should I start Foreman or Swift? And thankfully, I went with Foreman. I mean, once Hubbard was active, it threw a big question mark to that. So anyway, man, let's jump into things here.
Absolutely. Let's get to the juicy part of the show, the meat on the bone.
I'm trying to type this tweet for the show here.
I can take us in if you want. First off, let's start with those pesky bye weeks. First of all,
you
got Baltimore Ravens out, Cincinnati Bengals, New England Patriots, and the New York Jets. So realistically, I mean, 2 fantasy relevant teams here. Unless you're talking Ramondre Stevenson, he's pretty good, Joe. But other than that, I mean, let's get right into those trade targets, trade scenarios. I mean, which one do you want to start with first?
Yeah, so the way we're gonna do this, right? I'm not a big debate between, I guess, the three of us, if we're gonna join AJ into this conversation, right? Is how to go about the trade targets. I kind of dread talking trade targets only because it is so league and scenario dependent. I can tell you 100 times, go target blah 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 player because he's having a down season right now, or he's had a down couple of weeks, and you need to go target him. If your team isn't set up to take on risk like that, or the manager of that team isn't gonna give up their star player who's just had a couple bad weeks, it doesn't matter what I tell you. It's very league dependent on trades. There are certain leagues that just straight up don't trade, right? I'm in a few of those. But so the way that I went about this is I'm kind of going back to when my IT work days, right? Whenever we have a problem or whenever we're building a system, right? Or we have use cases. How are people using the system? So in this case, how are people going to be trading? What's the case? What's the scenario? So I broke it down this way. The very first one was, look, if it's kind of targeting these injured players, right? Now, of course, you would only do this if you are a team who is kind of in the driver's seat. You're 8-1, you're 7-2, you're sitting pretty, your team's deep as hell. You've got to feel real good about your team to go after a guy who's currently injured or just coming off of an injury, and you can trade a couple pieces, right, to the team who's got that player and maybe is in need of some wins. Let go after the 4-5 team, the 5-4 team, the team that's like 5, 6, 7, 8 in the standings and they're playoff hopeful, but things could go sour real quick if they keep losing games. You go get their star player who's currently injured and say, hey, here's a couple pieces for you that I can do without because, I'm in the playoffs. And even if I eat a loss for a week, I'll be set up for, gold in the playoffs because I'm going to go get. And the first thing that came to my mind when we talked about this last night, Mike, was Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Right? The guy's out for another couple of weeks at least. Right. And so
2 to 4, that's what I saw.
So, we're looking at this right now and it's like, he's probably out until just before the playoffs start in your leagues. So he's a guy that I think would be a huge boost for a playoff contender at this point if you can pull the trigger. Now, again, like I said, it's going to be hard to get him. Still, it's not going to be
Takes
cheap. But you
takes a little
offer
negotiate.
you offer like an RB2 and a wide receiver 2, like to a team, and you're getting a wide receiver 1 back in return. I as long as you've got depth to give up those 2 pieces to get a wide receiver 1 in return, you hands down do it, in my opinion. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, just like when we talk preseason, it comes down to how you construct your roster. All right. If you constructed your roster fairly well, and like you said, you're sitting pretty, smiling from ear to ear, 7-1, or like you said, 7-2, 8-1, you can take the risk, the high reward, as they say. You got to risk it for the biscuit of fantasy football. I mean, you're not going to get there playing it safe every week. So I do agree with you to an extent, but I mean, the one thing I play devil's advocate here, Joe, you know me. The one thing I do, just playing the caution here, with these injuries, we are not doctors, unfortunately. We are just going off of the information we are being relayed ourselves. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, because, I mean, Jamar Chase comes healthy, league winner if you trade for him in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Again, super risky to go after injury guys. We know sometimes they come back and they're just not right. But I mean, you want to win it. Sometimes that's what you got to go do, in my opinion. We do have a question, or a comment at least here, I guess. So just to kind of say, from Suave JP, Guy just offered me Jonathan Taylor for Jeff Wilson and Mecole Hardman. I tried to reach for Keenan Allen by adding A.J. Dillon and Jalen Warren as well, and might have lost the whole thing. I don't know if you lost the whole thing, and honestly, I don't know if that's a bad thing if you lost the whole thing. I mean, we were gonna talk about Keenan Allen here in a minute.
Yep.
So we'll save those comments there, but I think to summarize real quick what we were going to say about Keenan Allen is, I don't know. Like, I don't think I want to take that on.
I mean, quick little hint. You didn't practice again today,
right? JT's been miserable. Wilson looks like he's going to take that backfield over. These are all guys that we're talking about, by the way.
We talked about Hardman before the show.
We were talking about Jalen Warren and how, there's a lot of hype on him right now, but again, he hasn't done anything. Dillon's been bad. So I get what you were trying to do to get JT and Keenan, because the name value and in the past, they've been top for performers. They're league winners, in my opinion, at least JT especially. But I don't know if you really lost out, because you're giving up a lot of depth there for two star players that I'm not sure they're going to get right this year. They just feels off with both of those guys.
I know your opinion may differ, but I would almost revisit the JT trade.
JT just for Wilson and Mecole.
Yeah, just forget Keenan Allen. Just revisit the JT trade, because I mean,
I don't mind that, only because probably I would imagine
I have more faith in him than Keenan Allen at this point.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that too. And also I just think about teams that have both Wilson and Mecole, or just one of them, either one. You probably you didn't draft them very high, so they weren't your like immediate starters right away.
Yes.
Wilson had become a starter for a while until obviously the 49ers situation goes. Now he goes to Miami, and we think he's the starter now because he got a lot more workload this last week, but we don't really know. I mean, and look, he's saying it right now. I wouldn't start Wilson or Mecole. So I don't mind going after that. That's like that's perfect.
That's a
great.
You hit it right on the head right
if JT
there. That was the
bounces
perfect
back
comment.
with Jeff Saturday, he gets that offensive line going right. If Matt Ryan comes back, he can actually relive this, revive this offense at least a little bit, because Erlinger ain't it. he's saying running backs are Chubb, ETN, Walker, and Swift. I mean, dude, you literally don't need it. But it's perfectly fine. I would go for the upside with JT. You just may never start him over any of those guys.
Go for the upside of JT. And I mean, depending on how Swift plays this week, because we were talking about this pre-show, you might be able to dangle Swift as trade bait.
Yeah. And we got Herms here.
What up, man?
What's up, Herms? I was going to promote your show here in a little bit, but he said, pick 2 PPR, Devonta Smith, Pittman, Pickens. Also, hello. What's up? I'm going Smith and Pickens. I cannot start Pittman right now. Erlinger is total garbage. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I do, man. It is very it's concerning for me because Erlinger has not been good. I mean, granted, you gotta, like I talked to you pre-show, you gotta put it in effect. I mean, Bill Belichick does his work on rookie quarterbacks,
but he also didn't do anything against Washington, who is
this
atrocious.
Is true. So but they are playing the defense who allows the most quarterback points. I mean, and if you're a quarterback getting points, you got to throw the ball. So that's an appealing situation. But I do agree with you. The safer options are going Pickens and
especially now with no Claypool, Pickens is going to see even more. Devonta Smith has been bad, but like
I just think
you just gotta like the chances in that offense more than you do in a Colts offense right now.
I like the ceiling of
that is where we are at.
Yep.
All right. Suave and Bob, we will come back to you. Let's move on here real quick. I promise we will get to you, but I don't want to go 5 minutes straight on comments, so I apologize here. But so we talked about Jamar Chase. Another guy here, and this is a couple running backs. We got DeAndre Swift and Zeke, both currently kind of banged up, not playing as much as you would hope. Zeke's obviously been out. Swift came back. Played fairly well the first game and then like barely played the second game. So I think there's a lot of scared fantasy managers with Swift right now. And Zeke, again, like he's not really practicing right now. So he's a guy who I think, maybe both of these guys, they're not going to cost you as much as a Jamar Chase. But I think they're viable targets. Swift scares me a little bit more than Zeke, only because we saw the usage last week. I think we all know once Zeke comes back, Jerry Jones forces him to play a lot, as much as maybe they shouldn't. But
they're going to get their money's worth out of him.
It is what it is. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty dumb contract, and I think Jerry Jones is trying to get his money's worth there. But what do you think about either one of these guys as a injury target type for a team who is sitting pretty and maybe taking a risk on an injury type player like one of these two?
I mean, if you are, man, this is kind of hard because I mean, Swift is, as of right now, we think more healthier than Zeke because Zeke is, recently injured. But I'm so concerned about Swift, like you said, with the usage. I mean, last week, first game coming back, supposedly healthy, he only got 5 rushing attempts and 5 targets. Jamal Williams, I mean, he got 13 total touches, 10 rushing attempts, 3 targets. Like, yes, he's getting Swift is being used more in the passing game, which we like seeing that for PPR purposes. But Jamal Williams is clearly the number one guy right now, and he's been the number one guy the whole year, even before Swift got injured. We kind of saw Jamal Williams kind of taking the reins a little bit. So
the biggest thing with that is the red zone usage between those two. It's all Jamal outside of like, if they're on like the 15, they'll throw like a little, that the little
he's
like
only getting passing
like
work in the red
if you
zone.
play Mad, you know what I'm talking about, right? The little like triangle route, the running back comes off the field, comes out of the backfield and does up the middle. That's the Swift route all day, and it works every time for some weird reason. You know what I'm talking about? It just goes boop boop right up and right into the middle of the field, and nobody covers him. Just stupidity.
Halfback angle route works every time. But I think I like Zeke a little bit more just because of the point you brought up. I mean, Jerry Jones is going to force his way in there.
I think
he's getting red zone targets. I mean, red zone carries.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
So I do
definitely
think
safer.
Zeke's a little bit safer to trade for. I mean, and depending on how the usage trends for Swift this week is how my opinion is going to sway on him. If it trends a little bit more in a positive direction, I'd be more willing to go for Swift. If it
I
stays
would
the same or
say
goes down,
Swift is almost like if you want to buy Swift at the lowest possible value, now's it, right?
yeah,
Right? I mean, that might be it. Zeke's safer. Swift has that top
he's your
5. He has that top
definition of
8, 10
boomer
upside.
bust right
Zeke
now.
is plotter at this point. He can catch some passes, but he doesn't have the pop anymore. So I totally agree with you there. Let's get to these here. So Suave was saying a few other things. The only reason I want to trade for Keenan, it's a buddy that's contending in my league. Also has Cup, Devontae, and Chase and Eckler. Woof, man, this is
Damn.
it's got to be like an 8-team league, man. How the hell is this happening?
8 or 10, yeah.
Yeah, right. So Bob Dole, what's up, man? Just in time for the elections. Glad you're back. Should I trade Carr for Geno Smith? Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, Carr just lost Darren Waller,
absolutely.
Hunter Renfro. I mean, they're probably going to involve Jacobs more, so I would do it. I mean, Geno has seen a downtick in his usage since Kenneth Walker's bursted onto the scene, and the defense for Seattle is decent, but Carr has no weapons right now.
Yeah, and he said, "I love you guys. We love you too, Bob. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in every week, man. We know you're here." Related to what you're talking about, I have a trade on the table for Harris for Zeke. I want Zeke. I do not want anything to do with Harris at this point. It's going south for him. It hasn't been good all season. It looks like Jalen Warren's going to get more involved. It just seems bad. So whatever side is Zeke, that's the one you want. I know you just asked, should I accept? I don't know which side is yours, but and do you agree, Mike? Just yes or no?
Yeah.
I don't really love Zeke either, but at this point, Harris ain't it. It sucks because that
offense really ain't it.
Fantasy Receipts needs to start watching podcasts because they could eat me alive for all the crap that I say on this show. Glad they don't. Glad they don't. All right, looks like Suave's securing JT for Wilson and Miko. Good job, man.
See, I mean,
hopefully JT bounces back, man. Wilson's gonna be okay. Miko has kind of balled out the last couple weeks. Kind of funny, we were talking about that too. I was like, holy crap, I almost didn't even realize it. You forget about that 3 touchdown game.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's kind of afraid of those wide receivers, which I mean, I believe it. Those receivers.
Only player left on my team that I drafted is Chubb. Holy cow, that is quite amazing. I do not trade like that. That is amazing.
But your running backs are off the charts and scary.
So is his receivers. I didn't show you this one. He says his receivers are T. Higgins, Amon Ra, and AJ Brown.
Another guy we're talking about. I'm not going to name out of those.
Yeah, we'll get there. So, all right. Quick question, Mike, because we have gone a little long thanks to the comments. I love them, but it does make it go a little long, unfortunately. But we will get by. We'll make up time here. So, injury guys. We're talking upside, big name players. We talked about Keenan already a little bit. So I just want to ask you the question. Do you want to, if you're one of these teams who's 7-2, 8-1, feeling really good, you're in the play, you're like, things would have to go really bad to somehow miss the playoffs as a team like that, right? So do you trade a couple? So it has, or you just go into the playoffs limping, right? I've done that too. But do you trade for a Keenan Allen or a Mike Williams, who are currently injured and coming back? Well, we hope with Keenan. I think we know Mike Williams is coming back in like a week or two. So do you trade for one of them who, with Keenan, right, we know he's had the problems just getting back on the field. I don't think the production once he's there is the worry. But with Mike Williams, we have not seen the production even when he was on the field this year. So do you go after either one of them?
I expressed my thoughts on Keenan. I really don't want. I'm kind of out on Keenan. I was in a little bit before the season, but my biggest thing, and I'm a believer in hamstring injuries, they hamper the whole season, and this is the running candidate for the prime example of why hamstrings are terrible for fantasy football, or at least injuries. So I'm out on Keenan Allen. Now, Mike Williams, I won't lie, I'm a little biased here. He has won me a championship in the past, so I'm a little biased here. But the thing here is he does intrigue me more than Keenan Allen because, one, not a hamstring injury, and he's not practicing at all. Keenan Allen obviously not practicing at all, but he's been doing some stuff here and there trying to get back, and they're saying, yeah, he didn't suffer a setback. It's obvious he suffered a setback. Like, Big Mike's not practicing at all, so hopefully no setbacks. And if Keenan Allen's hampered by an injury all year, I do like Mike Williams as the number one target, for a Justin Herbert who's been struggling because he needs more targets.
Yeah.
But I am tempering, like, I'm not going all in on him. Like, you know how it is. If you can get, like, prime example, if you can go and get Big Mike for a Jeff Wilson and a Mecole Hardman, and you're 7-2, 8-1, pull that trade.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, the upside's there. The production, unfortunately, just hasn't quite been there for him.
You're scared by the production. Yeah, definitely.
He's up and down, man. Like, we're seeing a wide receiver finish of week 1, whatever. Keenan Allen was there, but I mean, again, 102. Then he was 8th. Then he was 46th. Then he was 13. Then he was 9. Then he was 68. Then he was 6th. Like, holy crap, dude. Like,
it's just that ability to help you win a week.
It is. He is a boom bust
so
guy. So if that's somebody that you can take on and you need, I wouldn't trade for him to be like my dude. Like, but
yeah. If you're
if he's clearly better than your wide receiver 2, I would clearly do it.
And then your wide receiver
I would
3
not pay crazy amounts for him. So another couple guys here. So a little bit lower on the poll here in the charts. Some guys that have been injured for a while, coming back, we hope soon. DJ Shark, Jarvis Landry, Jahan Dotson. These are all guys that I think you can go get fairly cheap. Who, look,
possibly
Shark,
even off the waiver wire.
Yeah, maybe in shallower leagues.
10
in leagues without IR spots, for sure. I would imagine they might be out there. I didn't even think to look at that for some reason. Not for those guys.
I'm thinking mainly 10 teamers though. 12 teamers. I see these guys being rostered.
Shark is 15% rostered. Landry is 21, so you're onto something. And Dotson 26. So yeah, so the problem is in most of my leagues, I have IR spots.
Yeah, these are deeper leagues.
So these guys are out. So so they're not available at all. But again, if they're rostered, you go after these guys, but you do not pay. I wouldn't even give up a Wilson and a Mecole for these guys. Like you're giving up.
Yeah.
You're giving up less than this for those guys because you're taking on the risk. You're giving up somebody who's at least worthwhile for the manager that you're giving a player to, but you're taking on risk.
Man, now this is kind of a tough question because he just scored tonight. But would you give up like a Drake London, who's been struggling? The offense don't pass a lot.
Panthers just scored a pick 6.
Oh, wow. Was it
Where was this last week, Carolina, when I used you in DFS? Jerks. I still cashed. Despite my -2 from my defense. Anyway, would I give up a Drake London?
It is kind of an example because he did score tonight. But it's been 5 weeks since he scored, I think it was, or I'd have to look that up.
Oh no, that's gonna get called back. Mariota was actually sacked.
Oh, you mean it wasn't a flag like half this game?
Right. That's tough, man. I think you like the opportunity that London gets in this offense. His target share is really high, but again, as we talked about this
Skewed
before the
statistic.
season started, the target quality sucks. So
Oh
target
Lord,
quality also
it's been
matters, and that's
6
something that
games since
we'll
London
talk
scored.
about. You see guys on Twitter all the time going, so and so has a 25% target share on his offense. They pass the ball 20 times a game. So
Nice 5 targets.
congrats, that's 5 targets. Or hey, he's got a 30% target share on his game on the team. Okay, congrats, that's 8 targets. Jesus, guys, let's be real. This is crap, and they're really bad targets. He's catching 3 of them for a reason. It's not because London can't catch the ball. It's because they're crap targets.
Mariota can't throw it.
Watch the games. I don't know how many more times. Jeff Mans on SiriusXM, he says this all the time. Guys, watch the games. I don't care. Look, I basically just watch Red Zone, but I get enough of a feel of the games than just watching my local sports team and going, oh, the box score says he did this. Box scores tell this much of the story. It really does.
It really does.
You've got to watch the games. You got to watch the flow of it. You've got to see the routes run. You've got to see the way the quarterback throws the ball to these receivers. Luckily we're
see the flow of the offense.
Luckily we're seeing, how bad, Mariota can be when they're forced to pass. It just doesn't work, right? And so the quality of targets, and this is why Pitts can't get going. The quality of targets to Pitts are horrible.
The montage of overthrown throws to Pitts on Twitter is just magnificent. It's a perfect example of what you're talking about. This is an interesting one.
I can get Jalen Hurts for Herbert and Jamal Williams. Should I pull the trigger? I'll love me some Jalen Hurts. In a vacuum, the answer is no. However,
yes,
if you've got 4 running backs that can easily replace Jamal Williams, I would do it. So if you're not losing anything at the running back position by trading Jamal Williams, then I would do it.
I'm pulling the trigger because you're getting the only other guy I think that can finish as the QB1 outside of Josh Allen.
I just don't think the point difference that you gain from going to Herbert to Hurts is worth giving up Jamal Williams, who can be an RB1 or high 2 almost every week going forward, in my opinion. And if you don't,
I agree, but the one thing
you've got to look at how it affects your whole team, right? You're getting the better player. That's awesome. You always want to try to get the better player, but you also have to see how it affects your entire team makeup. And each week you have to think, okay, Herbert might score what? 5 to 6 points less than Hurts on a good week, on their good weeks, right? Jamal Williams and whoever is going to replace him, that's where you need to figure out the difference and see if it's worth it.
The reason why I take it is because Jamal Williams right now is being held up by touchdowns. 8 total touchdowns on the year. All right.
But they use him in the red zone. We just talked about this. That's how they're using him.
I get that. But the last 2 games, the Lions haven't been in the red zone very often. That's my problem. They have slowed down. They're not that, offense that came out against Philly the first week and dropped, 20-something points or whatever.
They have the highest points per game at home this season, by the way.
Oh, that is. I like that stat.
They are amazing at home, by the way. But they suck on the road, but still worthwhile enough.
I think I like Jalen Hurts because you're looking at a guy that could potentially score 400 fantasy points this year.
I get it. I just think we're looking at Herbert, right?
But you are correct. Like I said, it is like you said, it is dependent.
It's the makeup of your team.
RB makeup.
So he's saying he's got CMC, Travis Etienne, David Montgomery as the other running back.
You do it.
So it would be David Montgomery replacing him. So are you good dropping from Jamal Williams to David Montgomery in order to go up from Herbert to Hurts?
I personally am. We talked before the show.
I think I would say yes. Yeah, in that case, I think I'd do it. You do hurt your depth at the running back position. So like one injury
True.
really kills you.
Yes.
But if you're a contending team, sometimes this is what you've got to do just
Joe,
to
this
put
is an
yourself.
episode about taking risks. And
Yeah,
this
right.
is
This is
taking
what
a
I'm
risk.
saying. That's what I was just
All
about to
right.
say. This is where if you're a contending team, sometimes to put you over the top over the other contending teams who we all know are good in your league, sometimes you've got to go. Sometimes you got to be risky. It might blow up in your face. ETN could get hurt next week. CMC could get hurt next week, and then you're going, "Shit! I really wish I had Jamal Williams."
It's so could
But like,
Jalen
let's be
Hurts.
real. If you
True.
lose CMC or ETN, you're probably not winning anyway, right? So like, it wouldn't probably have mattered. You would have just been treading water at that point. So I kind of do like the trade. Flashy graphics. I would pull the trigger. All right, so let's try to rip through this trade stuff because these comments obviously are keeping us at bay here. All right, so obviously, you know, we talked about if you're the good team, you go after the kind of middle of the road teams and go after their good players who are. You could even go after their like really good players who are healthy, right? And dangle depth because let's be real, like the reason why they're probably in the middle of the road is because they lack depth. And so like, yeah, they're really good players carrying them to what 4 or 5 wins, but their bad players are why they have 4 or 5 losses too. Right. And so if you can give them a couple depth pieces and say, look, your one player doesn't equal these 2 or 3 that I'm going to give you each week. So it improves your overall team, but you have the depth to get rid of those extra players and do it. But if you are the opposite, right, you can be the initiator if you are the opposite. If you are desperate for wins, right? And we're going to give you another scenario in a situation here. If you are desperate for wins and you've got the Jamar Chases, you've got the DeAndre Swifts, you've got the Zekes, the guys or the Keenan Allens or the Big Mikes, the Sharks, the Landry, the Dotsons, right? You've got these guys who are sitting on your bench, taking up roster space, coming back soon, right? It could help a playoff ready team. You go, look, I've got this guy who could really help you. I just need help getting into the playoffs. Give me some depth. Give me some guys. You go be the initiator. Don't wait for the better team to do it. But another way to do it, right? And we were talking about this too, is I lost my train of thought for some reason. If you are the lesser player, and I forget you brought it up like right before the show.
If you are the team that's sitting at 4 and 5, you know, kind of 5 and 4, and you're skeptical of actually making it to the playoffs, and you got some of these players that are harboring week 13, week 14.
Yes, that's what it was. Thank you.
That you need to absolutely get these wins. I mean, it's not a bad idea to possibly trade them to get those guys that have already had their buys. Maybe target those nice playoff schedules.
So we're looking at week 13, 14 buys, right? Mostly. So week 13 is the Cardinals. Week 13 is also the Panthers. Week 14, we got the Falcons, the Bears, the Packers, the Colts, the Saints, and the Commanders. Not juggernaut teams, right now, but like
starting players.
Let's be real. Like if you've got Kyler Murray as your starting quarterback and you've been kind of relying on him, you might have to get rid of that boy if you're a fighting team to get into the playoffs because
you're not getting them week 13.
You're gonna. I mean, unless you've got some guys on the waiver wire. Now, quarterback's a little bit easier to find guys on the waivers most leagues, but if you've got some guys here that, I mean, let's go through like D-Hop maybe, right? D-Hop, you could probably get a really good return for D-Hop, right? But like if you need him to win you week 13, you ain't gonna have him. So you need to go get something. Like you gotta look. I know you're thinking like, but I'm not going to win the league if I don't have D-Hop. You're not going to win the league if you don't get to the playoffs either.
This is true. You got to get there.
You got to get there to win it. And crazy things happen in the playoffs. Crazy
COVID
all the time.
Injuries.
So you
benchings.
Again, we didn't prepare for this segment as I actually had forgotten what the topic was or the scenario was. But so I don't have a whole list of names here to go through. But this was a great one that you brought up right before the show, Mike. So I'm glad you brought it up. The next one is, you really need to look at the schedule at this point. And this is why I'm kind of upset that AJ is missing this, because looking at future schedule is AJ's jam, dude. Like, that's what he does. So there's two ways to look at it, right? If you're a team who needs wins right now, you're looking at rest of season schedule. You're looking at 10, 11, 12, 13. Those are the weeks you really want to focus on, but you also care a little bit about the playoffs, but you need to get in, right? Just like I said.
Yeah.
But if you're a team who's contending and like sitting pretty, you're kind of more, you're like, you care about the rest of the season schedule, but you're kind of going like, okay, I can give up a little bit here and there if I'm going to get a monster playoff weeks out of these guys. So we're going to go by position here, and I'm going to start with receiver. So I wrote down a couple of names that kind of jumped out at me as far as having very favorable playoff schedules. And look, these aren't guys that like buy low. They're not necessarily buy low players. They're just, you go get your guy, right? You go get your guy to improve your team however you need to do it, right?
Yep.
Playoff schedule. DJ Moore. He has a phenomenal playoff schedule. I'm looking at it now, and we're looking at Pittsburgh in week 15, Detroit in week 16, and then Tampa, who you're thinking, what? Tampa's been beat up like crazy, and I think they're still okay. But look, DJ Moore is proving to be a much better player now that PJ Walker has been quarterback outside of last week. This week, he's, I don't know the exact stats, but he was looking okay from what I can tell so far. Four receptions for 29 yards. No, not great. Unfortunately, the touchdowns have not gone his way. But
according to Fantasy Pros, always a good resource to use. Pittsburgh's number one easiest for wide receivers, Detroit's fourth easiest, and then Tampa Bay's 13th toughest. So you got 2 out of 3 games there against top 5 receiving matchups. So DJ
I'm
Moore
using
is a
other
great
sources
example.
that I'm not allowed to share. I don't think. I'm sure they wouldn't be too happy about it. But
That's fair. That's fair.
Pretty favorable matchups here overall, especially the first 2 weeks. So DJ Moore is one that I like. Amari Cooper, and look, he's going to be expensive to go get, but Amari Cooper,
not if you're trading him.
as much as I've been down on him, we all know the target share he's getting in that offense, and look, he'll have Watson back at that point, so
should have Watson.
It could be even better. He's going to get Baltimore in week 15, which Baltimore looks like a bad matchup on paper, as far as like the stats and the touch and the points they've given up all year long. But don't be fooled. That's like 1 or 2 games total. Miami was 1, and I think they got beat up in a second one. But it's other than that, man, that's been a pretty stout defense. But regardless, Amari Cooper going against Baltimore in week 15. Then they get the Saints in 16, who aren't awesome, but they're okay. And then, of course, week 17, they get the Washington Commanders. So,
5th, 15th, and then 7th.
Yeah,
so you got top half matchups for
it's pretty good for him. So he's a guy that, like, it's, again, you're gonna have to go get him, but it's you're gonna have to pay.
I think it's worth it
for Cooper, but it really could be worth it for you.
He's making Dallas regret trading him for pennies on the dollar.
Right. Rest of season, right? These are guys that they've got pretty good overall rest of season, but like this also means that they've got favorable matchups before the playoffs, right? So I looked at the Jets, right? And Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson struggled the first couple of weeks once Zach Wilson came back and was quarterback. But since that time, and the Breece Hall injury, obviously, we have seen Garrett Wilson really step back up. So he's a guy that, like, maybe the manager who has him doesn't believe in it, and maybe you can get him a little bit cheaper, but you still might pay for it. The other guy here is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Very favorable schedule going forward. I know that Detroit is kind of up and down with their offense, but St. Brown's pretty safe as long as he's on the field, I would imagine. So what do you think about those guys?
We talk about target percentage as a skewed statistic, but when we talk about Detroit Lions who pass as much as they do, that target share is a little bit more accurate. And we're talking about a guy who gets upwards to a 30% target share when he's out on the field. So I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown as that guy. Garrett Wilson, the one thing I just want to add about him, because I do like him as that target for the rest of the season, you might be able to get him for cheaper than you think, Joe, just because of the fact that I'm thinking here, I got a buddy, Garrett Wilson owner. I mean, I'm a Garrett Wilson owner in some leagues. Last week, he was on my bench. He was on my friend's bench. So people are probably struggling on when to play him and getting frustrated.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Deciding this. So you might be able to get him a little bit cheaper if you kind of play that frustration.
I agree. I think that one's going to be, very manager dependent on how they value him. Moving over here to running backs, and we'll stick with the Jets here. And playoffs again, so the rest of the season schedule for receivers for Garrett Wilson and the Jets is very favorable, but playoff schedule for the Jets running backs is good. And so this one's going to be tough because it's Michael Carter and James Robinson. Yeah, I still am not really confident as to which one is actually the guy. I think it's Carter mostly, but it's not like top dollar type running back, right? So this is go get a flex guy type of.
It's Carter in my opinion, just because he gets more involved in the passing game. Robinson only got one target last week. Now they may go up.
He was banged up though, wasn't he? Coming off a shoulder injury,
a little banged up, but they still gave him 6 total. 5 rushes and then that one target. But Michael Carter got 7 targets. That's really the most appealing.
Yeah,
to me. Because that's really what is, in my opinion, keeping the RB position for the Jets afloat.
Yeah.
Now that we lost our super rookie at Breece Hall.
I know. He was so fun to watch. Rest of season, I'm looking at this Carolina now after this game, maybe not, right? So Deonta Foreman is a rest of season kind of guy at this point. And then you can kind of maybe it's sort of the same situation as the Jets, right? You're looking at Wilson and Mostert from Miami, and little shameless plug here. I kind of I write an article every week on fantasy6pack.net where I go through targets, touches, and snap counts, and kind of I give a whole lot of data and some tables that you can look at and come to your own conclusions. But we I also kind of highlight some teams and do some analysis as far as some of the more interesting ones. And one of the more interesting ones this week was the Dolphins. And because of how Wilson came in and got more of the carries, the very first week he was there, 5 days after he gets there, he sees more carries, more snaps, more targets, scores a touchdown. Like, to me, you want to go after Wilson, but I don't totally disagree going after Mostert. In fact, his price is probably a lot cheaper at this point than Wilson's.
The thing that's weird to me is Mostert kind of moved, or at least slotted into the Chase Edmonds role a little bit.
That's not good.
It's not, because I'm looking here at the red zone attempts. All right. Because both of them got a touchdown here. All right. Jeff Wilson wasn't in the red zone when he got this touchdown. Raheem Mostert was. He got 3 of the 4 red zone rushing attempts. So, I mean, if this is how it's moving forward, I kind of lean Wilson a little bit more because it seems like Mostert's kind of in that Chase Edmonds utility player at the goal line role.
But that didn't work, so that's not good. But
they won the game, so you can't say it didn't work.
Yeah, I get it.
At least you can't tell Arthur Smith that.
Yeah. So All right, so next up, we're gonna go to quarterbacks, and look, quarterbacks are quarterbacks. One quarterback leagues. I mean, unless you got, you're not doing anything. All right, if you've got Hurts, Allen, hopefully he's healthy. God bless his elbow. Right? Like you don't
I
want
don't
to
pray
see.
for much, but
I
let's see
don't
Josh Allen
have
healthy.
any shares of Josh Allen, but I don't want to see him not
Get a
play.
switch.
Dude, he's so fun. It makes the league fun to watch, man. You've got him a Holmes, you got these top dogs, man. You ain't getting rid of them. Right? But if you don't, man, let's be real. The quarterback situation this year has been sort of blah. Right?
It's
Like
not as good as
all
we thought
around.
it'd be.
It's kind of been like tight ends. You got like 3 or 4 dudes who you really are just like, yeah, every week, man. Lamar, plug him in, right? I mean, come on. We're talking about Geno Smith being a QB1. It is not a good year, guys. So we're streaming quarterbacks, right? We're going after some guys. So I'm just going to say this. Every single one of these guys is probably on the waivers in your league. Or might be for sure. Like, I don't just there's a good chance they're on the waivers. But if you're struggling at quarterback and you need to you're good for playoffs somehow with a bad quarterback, you need to evaluate who you're using. Good playoff matchups, by the way, for quarterbacks. And I hate to say it, suck it, Keith. Daniel Jones. Really, really good playoff matchups. Oh my gosh, it's I hate to say it, but it's true. They get Washington, Minnesota, and Indy. And then Jimmy Garoppolo. Now hear me out. I know everybody's going, Jimmy G, like he's not good. He just got Christian McCaffrey. He's gonna get Debo back from injury too. All right.
Don't be scared. C-Mac's
The
not going to throw all the touchdowns.
He's going to have at his disposal are phenomenal. And then listen to this schedule. Seattle, Washington, and then your favorite team to pick on, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes, they are easy to pick on.
He literally is going to be a league winner during playoffs. You watch, mark my words, he is going to be on a playoff team and just run through. I love this.
I don't. You probably don't agree with me, but I just want to chime in here. I'm a little skeptical of Seattle's matchup just because their defense has been pretty hot lately. That young class has been pretty good, but it's the matchup against Brady. It's the matchup against Brady this week that's really gonna all right, this defense is good, or all right, they've been pretending.
Yeah, I think Jimmy G's a little under the radar right now.
Absolutely.
And look. I mean, I know there's teams out there still relying on Mariota, who we know is just not good. We know there's teams out there still relying on Russell Wilson. Sadly, one of them. I can't pick up a quarterback in that. It's a 14-team league. There's nothing I can do. There's no.
Go trade for our next person we're going to talk about.
I have one guy who wants to trade me Burrow, but he wants one of my top 3 players, and I'm like, I'll suffer with Wilson.
I mean,
because of the replacement value of a wide receiver 2 in a 14-team league is a wide receiver 6. So there's nothing I can plug in. So you deal with crappy quarterback play in a 14-team league if you just missed.
You wouldn't target the next guy we have here for the rest of the season? See maybe if you can get him at a discount. I know we both loved him preseason, and he's finally kind of
no. So I know who has this guy in that league, and this is his only quarterback, so it's not going to work either. But yeah, rest of season we're looking at Trevor Lawrence. Good, not great. Rest of season schedule. Now playoff schedule, not good. Right. So that's where the whole rest of season isn't good, but the next few weeks looking pretty tasty for Trevor Lawrence. I'm trying to. Can I? Yeah. So the next few weeks, right? So this week he gets Kansas City. Unfortunately, he's on a bye, so you got to figure that one out. Then it's Baltimore, who again is a little under the radar when it comes to it, but
Oh,
they can still be beat. Detroit and then Tennessee, right?
yeah.
All fairly good matchups
10th,
when it
3rd,
comes
and
to
5th.
quarterbacks. The playoffs, Dallas, Jets, and Houston, and you're thinking, oh, Houston. But Houston just gets destroyed, and then the quarterbacks don't do anything, right? That's
Yeah, they
kind of
run the ball a lot on
so
Houston.
it could be, Lawrence might be okay there because, and it could be also that like Trevor Lawrence, and they get down quick against Dallas, so maybe that's a salvageable game for them. The Jets could be a close game, so it could be a different story for Lawrence with those matchups, but those other ones, those are gold. So I do like Lawrence moving forward, and so he's a guy who he's rostered in a lot more leagues than these other guys. So I think that's what we do there. I think Lawrence is a guy that we all should be.
I gotta
looking at.
ask you real quick. Like, if you're a Russell Wilson owner in that 14 teamer, are you debating going and trading for like Jared Goff?
No, I picked up Andy Dalton. I'm starting him this week.
Fair point.
That's
fair
how
point.
bad it's gotten, dude. I picked up Dalton
hey.
like 2 weeks ago and was like, screw it, I'm out.
You probably picked him up and you're like, yes.
I know. It's so sad. All right,
so desperation makes us do strange
tight
things.
Tight ends are tight ends. So I apologize if you guys need tight end help. You guys can ask us, leave the comments on YouTube here.
This is what the Discord's for.
Discord, ask us there. But tight ends are tight ends, man. Like let's be real. We got Kelsey, we got Andrews when he's healthy. There's another mix of like 3 or 4 guys when it comes to like Goddard and Ertz and Freiermuth maybe kind of bumping up the ranks here that we wrote about just because Claypool was traded, so maybe targets are there, but
Hawkinson's intriguing a little bit.
Hawk is a guy that I like, and again, he's another one I mentioned in that article I write on Fantasy Six Pack, and just how I was actually surprised at how
there's no shame on those plugs.
Real quick, last question, and then we really need to just rip through all of this, the rest of this.
Yeah.
So we've talked about trading for players depending on your situation. Now, if you're a good team, right? Or even if you're just like you might make the playoffs. Do you sell a player right now and you're looking at their playoff schedule and you're looking at it and going, oh, hell no. Like, I'll give you an example. Do you trade like do you trade like a Saquon Barkley? You'll get the moon for Saquon, right? You'll get a lot. You'll get a really good player back for Saquon, if not 2 for Saquon Barkley. Knowing that his playoff schedule is Washington, who's pretty decent against the run, Minnesota, and Indy. We can mention Tyreek and Waddle, Jefferson's in that mix. All these stud players, right? Do you trade these guys or just think, no, they're too good, they'll make it work?
I think this really is even more situational than the trade scenario a little bit here because I'm going to steal your example here that you put in the show notes. I mean, Tua.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I mentioned Hill and Waddle, but yeah.
Yeah, with the tough matchup,
Buffalo, Green Bay, and New England. Bam, bam, bam.
Somebody who's on fire right now. I mean,
just crushing it, dude.
But you look at those matchups for the Dolphins. I mean, like you said earlier about the Ravens, it's a little weird to say that the Ravens are a good matchup because there's really only had about 2-3 games where they've just been exploded on by receivers, and one of those games was Miami. So they've shown that they can play those tough matchups well, and they've shown that they can be coached through those tough matchups to at least become relevant and not be shut off the face of the map like Michael Pittman was last year and the entire Colts offense. So I really do believe it's situational, but like Saquon Barkley, I mean, man, you're talking about somebody who, I mean, he really hasn't finished outside RB1 or RB. I mean, has he even finished as an RB2? Because, I mean, he's been killing it. I'm trying to find it right here. I mean, week 1, 30.4 half-point PPR points. Week 2, he had 10.3. There was his one down week. Week 3, though, back to 20.6. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's just super consistent, even if he's not scoring. So, Saquon, one of those situational guys that if you're in
half PPR, it's 1, 17, 5, 12, 15, 9,
Thank
14,
you.
17. So, like, he's actually had a couple
17.
down weeks.
But 17's his worst.
And even then, it's been like 13 and a half points. So, like, it's still not horrible. Like, he's not killing.
No, it's not.
So you will take that.
You
But
will take that.
with a rough schedule coming up,
that's the one where I look at.
And again, like,
you got to do the research on the players and what their matchups were, because in that situation, I would trade Barkley. Because, like you said, he has had those rough patches where he's finished running back 17, running back 13. All right. And my guess, I mean, I don't even have to probably look at them. They're probably against good defenses. So that's the one thing.
Well, actually, I don't know if they were, but
week 10 was, week 2 was against Carolina where he scored the 10.3. I can't.
We had Carolina. They're not great. Chicago was his 12. Green Bay was his 15. Jacksonville was his 14, and Seattle was the 17. So, not phenomenal defenses. Nothing.
Seattle, like I said, but that's it.
But yeah. All right. Well, I think we can move on, man. Let's jump into the rankings, and we'll try to rapid fire this. I'll keep my answers short, but go for it, man.
All right. So first question here. All right, we're going to talk about Justin Fields. The man's hot. He just broke the rushing record in a game for rushing yards. Beat the man, Michael Vick.
Regular season record, by the way.
Yeah, regular season record. Still a record nonetheless.
Still a record. I like it.
Exactly. Yeah, you put him as QB4 this week. I mean, so my question here is, are you comfortable ranking him as a top 5 QB now? Or was this very uncomfortable putting him up there?
I don't love it because he's not awesome. But I mean, you gotta love the way that they're using him right now. He's seeing they're designing runs for him to where I'm not expecting 178 yards, not even 100 yards. You can't even expect 100 yards a game, right? That's just not predictable.
60
but
to 80?
Yes, you can. I think you can predict a good, I think 60 to 80 yards is pretty predictable the way that they're using him right now. And then because of this, right? So we know he's still not passing the ball a lot, although it's more than it was earlier this season for whatever reason. He was running less and passing less earlier in the season. What? Anyway, sorry, I was burping a little bit there.
You're all good. I mean, just to agree with you, I mean, since week 6, he's had 3 games with 12 plus rushing attempts.
And I think what's happening too, right, is that you see, so the fact that he's running more and passing more is the fact that the Bears are now running just more offensive plays, right? And it's because they have designed runs for him. He's making better decisions. And then because he's running more, the defenses have to get sucked in. And so, I mean, we're seeing him pass to literally wide open receivers. Nobody's around these guys. So I wouldn't call Justin Fields a great quarterback, but he's perfectly fine for fantasy at this point. Like, I am happy to use him. And I said it in my my Bonds Banter article that it came out Monday morning. Justin Fields is easily a top 10 quarterback the rest of the way if they keep using him this way.
He kind of reminds me of Jalen Hurts last year.
And this week he gets Detroit. Thank you. Yes. I will probably be playing Justin Fields in DFS again.
All right. I mean, you want to talk about another juicy matchup here? I like to shit on the Raiders' defense against QBs here.
Yes, you do.
You've been able to start whatever quarterback you want against them this year. I mean, the worst finish they've allowed is QB 16, and that's your boy Andy Dalton you just picked up. So I mean, the Colts play the Raiders this week. We're coming off a terrible, abysmal week against the Patriots, and you got Sam Erlinger at QB 25. Is there no faith that this defense can help kind of turn this offense around? Maybe turn Sam Erlinger around,
No,
make him a streamer, possibly.
no. Sam Erlinger's bad. Just go back and listen to all the crap I gave about the Colts early on. Like, and before the show, we were trying to be like, oh, is Michael Pittman a buy low? Not with Erlinger there. Ellinger. I think it's Ellinger. Either way, it's bad because it's not ER, it's EH. So it's Ellinger. Either way.
It's like when you're watching.
Look, last week I get it. New England likes to do their thing against especially rookies, and they shut them down. I get it. The week before that, he played the Commanders. Still only 8 fantasy points. Not good. Like, could he score 13, 14 fantasy points and be okay? Fine. But I want nothing to do with it. So you put him at 25 and say, sayonara, forget about Erlinger, and just move on.
As you discussed earlier in the show, desperation makes us do wild things. I picked Andy Dalton and started him over Russell Wilson. But moving on to running backs here. We'll talk about, Tony Pollard getting no love, sitting 4 spots below the ECR. I know, Zeke's coming back with the injury, and you got the Jerry Jones news. But Green Bay is not the greatest against the run. And tell me, I'm the resident Packer fan here. I know they can't stop the run. So, is he not even worth kind of that, flex-worthy RB2 spot? Or at least a bump up from the ECR, because I could be wrong on what you have him positioned for already.
So he's RB21 for me, so he is RB2.
All right, it's a low-end RB2.
He's definitely flex play.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that, like, if again, this will drastically change if we hear any sort of news that Zeke is out. But if Zeke is there, we know what's going to happen. Zeke's going to get so much of this workload that it doesn't sit well. It doesn't make Pollard a very viable running back. Honestly, like, he's flex at best, and even if Zeke doesn't get as much as he used to, he's still going to drastically cut into Pollard. What he's had the last couple of weeks. So
I could agree with that. Yep.
It's basically where it boils down there. So,
all right. So, moving on to the next question here. All right. So this one I'm riffing with, I won't lie. So you're going to have to answer this on the spot. All right. So this week you got Nick Chubb ranked at RB8. It's 1 spot below consensus. Nothing controversial there. But really, the controversy I want to talk about here is you're looking at the RB3 on the year, and he was RB1 not too long ago, a couple weeks. So I'm kind of curious on why the low ranking this week against Miami.
I feel like
for his standards, it's low. We're picking nits here at RB8.
Right. So Miami, where's their points per game as far as running backs? They're pretty good. Aren't they? They're 21st best. So they are 9th best, 11th best. They only allow 17 and a quarter per game against running backs. I don't know. I think with me, it's Kamara gets Pittsburgh, ETN gets Kansas City, so it could be like a bit of a shootout game, and so we can see a lot of passing work there. Jacobs could honestly fall behind him, so maybe move him up 1, and then you're looking at the stud for Barkley, McCaffrey, Henry, Eckler, and at that point, like, whatever. These are all splitting hair kind of guys. You're clearly starting Chubb at this point. I could swap Chubb easily up to 5, and I wouldn't blink an eye. But he also hasn't really, last week he was 6, thankfully, for 2 touchdowns. But the week before that he was 10. The week before that he was 23. So like, he's no lock at this point to just be crushing it.
All right, so I mean, he's returned. He's returned to the Earth. I mean, he's no longer at the moon. I understand. So we can move on then to our wide receiver then, and the first question I have here, all right, is these wide receivers for the Broncos. I mean, we thought, going into the year, Cortland Sutton was the number 1, but it looks like Jerry Jeudy is finally taking over that position,
Right.
at least according to your rankings. Yeah, and we got a great matchup against Tennessee this week. I mean, we got Jerry Jeudy as that low-end wide receiver 2 and Cortland Sutton as a wide receiver 3. I mean, are both of these guys decent options this week with a good matchup against Tennessee?
Honestly, no. I mean, I don't love it. I think the only reason why you're kind of people are forced to rank them where we are, right, is Russ isn't going to get shut out, right? And so Jeudy and Sutton really are the only 2 guys seeing worthwhile targets there at all. Now, shockingly to everybody involved, with watching football and analyzing it, he's taken over, as you said. That was not expected. I've always said I think Judy's the better player over Sutton, but you saw the way the preseason rolled out, and then even early season, you're going, oh, okay, well, never mind. This is obviously Sutton's receiving core here, and he's going to just roll with it. But it's gone it's just week 6, and it was just kind of like, here's one, and then whoop, they just flipped. It was crazy. I mean, the points per game here for Sutton over the last 3 weeks, 2, 4, and 2. What is happening? At the same time, Jeudy, 7, 13, and 15.
The consistency is
drastically different. So, yeah, I mean, I'm putting Jeudy ahead of Sutton. I could probably drop Sutton even lower, honestly. Like, if I'm looking at this now, I wouldn't feel one bit of regret putting him below a Thielen, a Rondale Moore.
The Thielen shocks me a little bit because I know we talked before show. You're a little down on him.
A little down on him. The Hawkinson, look, they passed an absolute crap load against Washington last week, which was kind of shocking. They actually got down. But the fact that 2 more targets went to Hawkinson over Thielen, and Thielen only caught 3 of them out of 7, like, that's what's I'm like, oh my God. I mean, like, something that's weird. Maybe just the coverage. Maybe just the coverage went differently for that game, and just game plan kind of worked out in that favor. But that, for a very small sample size, that is alarming, right, for Thielen. So you do have to drop him a little bit there. But I mean, could I put Sutton below Thielen, even Rondale Moore, maybe even a Curtis Samuel and a Pickens, and if Cooks is actually healthy? Sure, I could. But I kind of stopped there. So, at most, Sutton would drop to like 36, 37 for me. So I feel confident enough that Sutton is a good enough talent, and it's a good enough matchup that 31 is a solid ranking for him.
So you're starting him?
In a 3 receiver league? I mean, by the numbers, yes. By the numbers, yes. But at this point, let's be real. Like, I mean, I would hope that everybody knows at this point, like, we've got guys that weren't drafted as wide receiver 3s that are above him. Guys like Brandon Ayuk, right? Brandon Ayuk wasn't drafted before Sutton, but he's ranked ahead of him. A bunch of these guys that there's guys that get jumbled up. Josh Palmer, right, is ranked above him, right? So maybe not, because you might have been able to pick up a Josh Palmer, and so you could slide Palmer above Sutton and just go for it. We do have a question here before you get into your next question for me. Full PPR, Pollard or Connor? So I think it's Pollard if Zeke is out. If not, I think you might roll Connor. Yeah, that's
I think
close.
I still lean Pollard.
Actually, I think I still just go Pollard both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take that back. I think it's Pollard both ways.
Especially being full PPR, that definitely swings me a little bit more towards Pollard because if Zeke's going to be back, Pollard's going to be even more involved in the passing game instead of just the rushing game.
Yeah. Although you say that, man, but like Pollard for a few weeks, he was only seeing 1, 3, 0, 3. Even last week, even the last 2 weeks, 2 and 1 targets. He's actually not seeing a lot of targets in the passing game. So like they're not dumping the ball off. Now with Dak back, it could be different. We haven't seen both of them back with.
Well, I mean, you look at the past couple matchups. I mean, week 8 they played Chicago. They blew them out. I mean, they didn't really need to throw the ball. They ran the ball down their throat. They played Detroit week 7, another team you can run the ball down their throat. I mean, this one I'll give you, Philly week 6. But again, that's a team you can run the ball on compared to throwing the ball on. So, I mean, these matchups are more swayed towards, running the ball, the positive game script for them, except that Philly game, that was negative game script. It's just you can run the ball against them.
Yep. All right. We got one more real quick. What's up, guys? Need help. This is from Big Trev. Start 3 PPR, Thielen, Hardman, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Devin Singletary.
You're starting Singletary, especially with Josh Allen possibly being out.
Oh, actually, man, if Josh Allen's out, I'm out on that offense.
Really? You don't think Mr. Checkdown Case Keenum isn't going to throw him the ball?
I want nothing to do with Case Keenum. Singletary's not that great anyway. If Allen is in, I think it's Thielen, Hardman, Singletary. If Allen is out, I think you swap to DBJ.
So in week 6, Singletary 5 targets. Week 7, they were on bye. Week 8, Singletary had 2 targets, but he had 14 rushing attempts. And then week 9, he had 5 targets. And that's Josh Allen. We're talking about a guy who's taken away the running back ceiling for Buffalo because he runs the ball in. So I really do like Singletary.
How good do you think this offense is going to be without Josh Allen? He runs the offense.
You're right, but the defense is good enough to get him in field position to make it valuable. I think it's a piece.
Singletary is the workload is there, the production isn't there, right? RB 39, RB 54, 6 because he got a couple touchdowns that week. 28, 47, 15, 32, 25. It's a middle of the road guy.
I mean, let's be honest, all these kind of guys.
They all are. But we're just talking about Hardman being.
I will give you that.
Especially PPR, Hardman has been balling out.
That was
Thielen, not great. And you're a little worried about with Hawk. DPJ, we talked about him before the show. About how and you beat me to him on the waiver by a couple dollars on Fab. I was like, what the hell? Why is he available? He's scored double-digit points in the last.
You named my 3 starts.
So I think Thielen, Hardman, DPJ are the guys. If Allen is in, maybe swap DPJ and Singletary. That would be my go-to.
Mine is just a slight different. I'm sitting Thielen. I play Hardman, DPJ, and Singletary. DPJ's gotten an uptick in targets the past couple of weeks.
Yes, Hardman's got that touchdown outside though, man. That's the big thing.
Yep. But Thielen, what does he have?
Just target share. Just target share. Just target share.
Which we know is skewed.
He's a little safer than all the rest of the guys. Anyway, all right. Good luck, Trev. All right. Luck, I guess we're on to tight ends.
No, I had one more wide receiver. One.
You're gonna surprise me.
We only had one, so I mean, I figured I'd throw you another ad libber. All right, so like we talked about earlier, Chase Claypool trade. I'm curious how your thought process went into ranking George Pickens and Deontay Johnson this week. You got Deontay Johnson as wide receiver 29 and Pickens as wide receiver 35.
So I like both a little bit better than I probably have in the past because Claypool is not there. However, you still have to worry just that the fact that this offense is just terrible. I mean, Charles Barkley, terrible. Like,
Terrible.
this is
Does it look like a Charles Barkley golf swing? Just terrible.
Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible, man.
Terrible.
So it's hard to really rely on these guys. Yeah, the target share is nice. They're seeing lots and lots and lots of targets, but it hasn't amounted to anything. Look, the last 3 weeks for Deontay Johnson, 7 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets, 5 catches in all 3 of them, 28 yards, 42 yards, and 35 yards.
So you're saying he's consistently bad?
What do you do with that? I mean, we all love target share, but if the target share is shit, what do you do with it? Right? I say that all the time. People want to rant on Twitter about target share and everything else. Doesn't mean anything when it's not good targets.
This is true. I was just curious of that thought process. So to sum it all up, it was not a fun process.
No, I mean, when you get to that point in the rankings, man, you're just looking at potential, I guess. The top guys are the top guys. It's all, it's a lot of matchup based. It's they're the guys. They've been racking up the points. They've been racking up the touchdowns. They've got the matchups. They're like the main guy in that offense. And then once you get to those like 25 to like almost 40 ranked guys, they're all sort of the same. And you're going like, damn, what's like the little bit that's like separating these guys? And consistency matters at that point a lot more. Sure, you're going to have a Josh Palmer week where he's going to blow up for like 2 touchdowns, like a Mecole Hardman, right? But you had him ranked 50 and you're going, you look stupid, but like, who predicts 3 touchdowns for Mecole Hardman or anybody, right? It's like that kind of crap happens, but
I mean, who predicted that for CEH in the beginning of the year?
Who predicted it from Joe Mixon last week? Yeah. 5. So
count them, 5. But we'll move on to tight ends here.
Yep.
All right, just one question here, and we're going to talk about somebody who's kind of, been on a hot streak lately. But I remember last week you had him ranked at tight end 14, 17 range, and we're talking about, the guy who looks like Weird Al Yankovic reincarnated, Greg Dulcich. All right. Just a spitting image. He was the one that should have been casted in for that Weird Al Yankovic movie instead of Harry Potter. But Greg Dulcich at tight end 7 this week. 7.
Look, 3 weeks.
Worthy?
Tight end 9, tight end 12, tight end 8. Against Tennessee, pretty good matchup. We know the running game isn't hot for Denver anymore. He has seen 9 and 5 targets the last couple of weeks, caught 6 and 4, getting plenty of yards. He's seen some downfield targets. He's able to break some tackles. All it's going to take is, to finish probably tight end 4, really, is do all of this and then fall into the end zone. If you can do all of this, this is more consistent than almost everybody else that's in the top 10 outside of Goddard and Kelsey and guys like that. It's tight end is such a shit show, man. I hate this position right now. I really do.
So I'll make it quick and easier for you. Are you sticking on brand? Are you playing? I mean, granted, you can't make that option anymore. But were you playing Greg Dulcich over Kyle Pitts this week?
I had Pitts lower.
So you are sticking on brand. That's what I like to see. You're a company man. So
I had Pitts lower.
I mean, it's a good call. I remember what he finished with, but I remember he started with 1 catch for about 10 yards, and I don't know if he caught anything after that.
I'm about to tell you.
But that ranked up our
he caught wraps 2 up for 28 out of 8 targets. Talk about crappy targets. We all want to go.
Hey,
get the target share.
How many times did Mariota throw the ball? I
30.
gotta know. Wow. So
Phenomenal.
I mean,
Look, you're gonna get
great
these
target
guys.
share.
You're gonna get guys. I'm
I'm
going on a rant.
moment.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm you've got
I should have
me.
shut my mouth.
You've got me going. Guys, for anybody listening at the hour 24 mark, and I'm sorry the show is super long today.
You're
For
about
anybody
to get some
listening
extra credit.
still, please, for the love of God, shut the hell up on Twitter about so-and-so players getting all this target share and getting all these looks to where we're looking at Kyle Pitts for now, his 10th game of the season, seeing all this target. Yeah, he's 2 good freaking games. 2. We got to stop. You got to stop with this guy. He is not a top target tight end. I know the athleticism is there. I know the talent is there. The offense isn't there. Marcus Mariota is not working. We've all been fine dropping London like a rock for good reason. Yet at least he can catch some damn touchdowns. But we're not doing it with Kyle Pitts. I get it. The tight end position is garbage. But it just isn't working with him anymore. Stop relying on Kyle Pitts has fallen into the category where he is now touchdown dependent. And yes, he might have a little bit more of a chance of a touchdown because he sees more targets than some of these other tight ends that he gets ranked around, because some of those other tight ends get 4 targets a game. So yeah, he sees double what they see, but he's only able to catch like 1, 2, 3 of them at most a game, and he's lucky to catch 1 for a touchdown. We gotta stop it. Target quality is a thing, and we need to value that more than just spewing shit on Twitter where we're going, this guy sees a 30% target share. If it's a 30% target share out of 25 passes, or 20 passes in some cases for some of these really bad offenses, and they're just shitty passes because the quarterbacks suck, that means absolutely nothing. You're feeding bad information to your Twitter followers and leading them to losses. You know how many shares of Kyle Pitts I have this year?
Too many.
0. 0.
I only have him in a couple spots, but it's too many.
I think I drafted him in one of my best ball leagues. 1, because I was like, fuck it. Why not? I'll take 1 chance in a best ball league. But I think I also drafted like Gerald Everett later, and Gerald Everett has started pretty much every week. So like, whatever. Best ball, you can take that chance. I wanted nothing to do with Kyle Pitts. With Marcus Mariota there, no thanks. Anyway, off my soapbox. Let's rip through the injuries. Let's finish off with the injuries here, and I'll start with the quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, hamstring, limited practice. Watch out for that. Sounds like he'll be okay, but might not run as much, so look out there. Josh Allen, this one is very concerning in my opinion, and we kind of already alluded to it. He's got that elbow injury. If you guys weren't watching the game, he threw the ball and he kind of like flexed his elbow and rubbed it a little bit, and then the very next play, the ball just kind of went. Then all of a sudden he threw like a 60-yard bomb, so it was kind of like, well, what's actually happening here? I don't know if it's hurt or not, or if he just anyway. They were calling it a UCL injury, and I know we're talking football, but UCL injuries in baseball usually mean Tommy John, so that is not a good sign. So I'm very concerned with this Josh Allen injury. They could just hold him out because they're a playoff contending team. They're a Super Bowl hopeful team, so I think they're going to want to do that. Matt Stafford in the concussion protocol midweek.
Not great.
I honestly don't see how he plays. Like, this would be stunning if he plays, and how he goes in the concussion protocol on like a Wednesday is baffling to me, but he did. Tannehill full practice today, so looking like he's gonna fill back in for Malik Willis and everybody who has anybody on that offense outside of Derrick Henry is very happy.
Very.
Running backs here, we got Zeke, limited practice with a knee. We've already mentioned him. Swift, same thing, limited practice again. Aaron Jones, questionable with an ankle, limited practice. Damian Pierce, this one was like a early week injury that kind of popped up, chest and shoulder, limited practice. Could just be saving him, but I'll be honest, I actually went out in a couple leagues where I could. I snagged Burkhead just in case, where I'm kind of desperate. Like, he would probably fill right in for me. Deion Jackson, questionable with a knee, didn't practice. On the flip side of that, Jonathan Taylor looks like he's a full go. So Deion Jackson's kind of pointless at this point. Get rid of him. Eli Mitchell, designated to return from the IR. Again, CMC there. I don't think I would start Mitchell, but it's interesting to see how they could get him mixed in because he is talented. J.D. McKissick, neck injury, didn't practice, and then you put Dotson in the wrong spot. But I'll let you cover that with the receivers.
I did. I didn't even notice
that. I'm paying attention, like what we said earlier last night.
I should do that to you more often.
I can read.
For the hell of it.
I'm not going to be Ron Burgundy.
Yeah. That's fair. But Jahan Dotson, for the wide receivers here, he was questionable. He hasn't played the past couple of weeks, but he got a limited practice in, so it's positive for him. All right, and we got next Josh Reynolds, Detroit, back, questionable, did not practice at all. Alan Lazard, questionable with that shoulder. He did get a limited practice in, which is good. Brandon Cooks popped up with a wrist injury randomly. Let's be honest here. He was just pissed he didn't get traded, but he got a limited practice in today. So he's questionable. And then Nico Collins, he came off the IR and he got a limited practice in, injury with the groin, but he's questionable for this week. And then this one was a shocker too, kind of popped up, I want to say Tuesday. Mecole Hardman, questionable with an abdomen injury, didn't practice today. And then you really got the headlining news for today. Hunter Renfrow going to the IR with the hamstring and the ribs. And then I'm just going to kind of sneak in the tight end teammate of his, Darren Waller, also going to the IR with the hamstring. Big loss. But to complete the wide receivers, Keenan Allen, we already talked about, didn't practice with the hamstring. Mike Evans showed up today as a limited practice, questionable with ribs and ankle. And then this one, another guy to kind of keep your eye on, Treylon Burks, designated to return from the IR Wednesday for the Tennessee Titans. Just another one of those guys to kind of keep your eye on. I mean, you got Robert Woods there, but that offense passing-wise hasn't done much without Tannehill. And moving on to the tight ends, we already talked about Waller, so we're going to talk about David Njoku, who did not practice again today with that ankle injury. He said he's going to play, but, man, if he's not practicing, I'm not very faithful in it. And then the last one here was Evan Ingram, who left last week's game with a back injury, got some limited practice in today, but he's still questionable.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thank you for hanging in there with us. We had lots of comments. I love all the conversation we get here with you guys, and hopefully you guys
love the interactions
too with the trades. And that being that, hopefully AJ's okay. I haven't heard from him. I don't know what's going on, but thanks, Mike, for stepping in again, and we will check y'all next week. Good luck in week 10. Join those subscriptions and subscribe to the channel, guys. We appreciate it. Peace.
Come have fun in Discord.